Okay, so this is our next question, linked list programming, write a method. Again, there is no static method, it's just a method, write a method, trim ends that could be added to the linked list class, the same class we are about to add, trim ends. The method accepts an integer parameter k, so it means we are accepting a parameter, which is an integer data type. K is the number we are accepting, and remove k elements from the front end of the list and k element from the back of the list. So if the k is 3, this is, for example, this is your list, and list.trim ends 3 is the value. So what you have to do is remove the first 3 elements from the list and remove the last 3 elements from the list, and your final list will be 40, 50, 60, 70, and 80. So if the trim ends call is 1, so you will just remove 1 element from the front and 1 element from the back. So if we follow this by a second call, so if on the same list you have a second call, list.trim ends 1, and you have removed 40 and you have removed 80, your final list is now 50, 60, 70. So whatever the k value is, which is an integer value passed in the parameter, you will remove that number of elements from the front and that number of elements from the back of your list. If the list is not large enough to remove k elements from each side, throw an illegal argument exception. So if we have to check the size, that if the side of the elements, if you have to remove, like if it says, for example, it says to remove 10 elements from the front and 10 elements from the back, we are not able to do it, right? Because 10 elements, there's no possibility of 10 elements of removing. Then we have to throw illegal argument exception. So this is one of your if condition. So when you are reading a question, there are some rules which are already mentioned in your question. If the list contains 2k elements, like to double the amount of k elements, it should become empty as a result of the call. If the k is 0 or negative, the list should remain unchanged. For full credit, you need to obey the following restrictions in your solution. The method should run in no worse than O log of n time, where n is the length of the list. You can make more than one pass over the list, but you may not make k or n passes over it. Do not call any methods of the linked list. So it is mentioned. So you're not allowed to call any methods from the linked list class. Note, the list does not have a size field, and you are not supposed to call it size method. Do not use auxiliary data structures such as array, array list, queue, strings, etc. Do not modify the data field of any nodes. You must solve the problem by changing the links between the nodes. You may not create new list node objects. We can create list node variables, but we are not allowed to create the objects. We are fine, we can create variable. Assume that you are using the linked list class and list node class as defined in the lecture section, which I have given you a little bit of reference, where the linked list, int list have your front and list node have data value and the next. So these type of bullet points you need to obey when you are writing your code. The reason behind it, that you need this type of questions maybe in your interviews, in your internship interviews, or maybe in your transfer interviews, that the question seems very easy, but they have so many restrictions that it makes it so hard to solve that simple, even a simple question. So you're not allowed to use array list, queue, strings, any size method, any other loops, no multiple loops, no nested loops. I mean, so take a picture of this question so that we can switch on to whiteboard and we can start writing our question. Okay, so take trim ends, try to understand the question first. What we are doing is we are accepting a k element, and we have to check if the size is big enough to remove that amount of elements. So if the k is 3, we will remove 3 elements from front, 3 elements from back. Okay, so let me stop the share. Let's open our whiteboard. Okay, so now let's start with the text box, let's say. Okay, so we have, again, it's not a static method, public What is the return type? Are we returning anything? Are we returning anything? Nope. Okay, so we are doing void method name trim ends, and what we are accepting from user. Int k, we are accepting the k elements, starting curly braces and ending curly braces. Okay, now let's okay, now what? Do you want to do it with for loop, or would you prefer while loop for this code? And for loop, while loop, whatever works. We can, let's start with stick to the while loop. Okay. Oops. Okay, what will be your first step? What is the next step? As we are removing, there are multiple if conditions already mentioned that we need to make sure that we have that much of size flexibility. So as you have read the question, there was so much of focus on the size, that if we have enough size, if we don't have the size. So first of all, as they have mentioned, that we cannot call the size method, right? So if you cannot call the size method, it means you have to write that method in your code, because we need to find the size that whether we have whether we have that size or not, right? So we will have to identify what is the size of our list. So we cannot call the method, we will write our method. Int size equals to 0, the variable. Now we have to go through our list. How to go through our list? That's very simple. At this point, you all must be aware that front is the one who knows your list, right? If your front is null, it means you don't have your list. If your front is not null, it means we have a list, and we just have to go through the list and do a count of every node, as long your front is not null. But there is a rule: we will never apply our loop on front. So we will create a variable. They said we cannot create the object, but we can create a variable. This is a variable. We are not creating the object, we are creating a variable. Current equals to front of the list, semicolon. We will use a while loop. While what? While your current is not equals to null, so that it will go through the whole list and count all the values in our node. And just simply what we will do in our this is our size, kind of our size method. Oops, that's not okay, never mind. Current equals to, we will just increment our current dot next, just move as long you have some values and as long you are not null, and we will just do size plus plus at this point. Close the parentheses, close your while loop, and that's it. This is going to find you a size method, so a total size. Let me come and find the size of the list. Okay, so now after we have the size, at this point we know the size of our list. Now what we have to do is we are getting the k amount of elements, and we are removing the k amount of elements from the start and k amount of elements from the end. So for that, it means the k elements, if for example k is 3 or whatever k is, we have to make sure that the size is bigger than that double the amount of k, because we are removing k elements. For example, the size is for example, the size is 5, right? So if the k is 3, it means size is less than k times 2, which will be, because we are removing k elements from front, k elements from back, that's why it will be k times 2. So if we cannot fulfill that scenario, it means the size, if the size is less, throw illegal argument exception, right? That was mentioned in your question. So our first if condition will be if but after finding out the size, if size is less than k times 2, which is whatever the k they have sent, and it's more than the size, then throw new illegal argument exception, right? throw illegal argument exception, open close parenthesis. There's nothing new. I haven't figured this out by myself. This was mentioned in your question, right? That if the size is less than k times 2, then throw the illegal argument exception. That's why I always tell you, when you have a one big page of question, read out in detail, read out at least 3 times. Just read it out 3 times, make a rule. Even if you have understood the concept, read the question 3 times, highlight the points which you think will be needed in your solution. So as you can see, the code I have written so far, it was mentioned in my question that you cannot use the size method. So I said, okay, I can find the size by myself. I have written a loop to find the size of my list. That's it. The other condition was mentioned that if the size is less than k times 2, throw the illegal argument exception. That's already done. So when I give you a question to solve, so I want at least this type of coding, half of the coding at least done by you, which was already mentioned in the question. Okay. Now, another else if, which is, I believe is part of your question or was not, but you need to, that's why when you read the question 3 times, when you read that page 3 times, then you will figure that out, that this was also a hint given in your question. Else if will be the case, because at this point, I have the size. I know how big my list is. So I have k, and the task is to remove 2k elements, like 2 times k elements from the list. Else if is the case, one more, where my size is equals to, remove my cursor, 2 equals to 2 times k. Like it's removing my whole list. What if the size is equals to 2 times k? Because I am removing first 3 elements from the front, first 3 and last 3 elements from the back. What if total elements are 6 and the k is 3? So it means there is no need for me to write multiple loops and stuff like that. Just simply make your list null, right? If the size is same, there is no point of going through that current equal current dot next and remove the values one by one and checking. No, if the size is equals to 2 times k, it means front equals to null. Make your list null. So if you have read the question 3 times, you have understood that this type of scenario existed, and it makes your life so much easier, right? Any questions? Make sure that you have your questions in the chat. You can do a direct chat and make sure you understood the points right on the spot. Don't wait till the end of the questions to be solved. So if you're confused about why we use this, if why we have done else if, why we have written this while loop, ask right away. Now we have, what do you think will be the third scenario? As I mentioned, according to our question, the focus was on size, because it depends on the size, right? If the list is small, less than k times 2, we cannot remove. If the list is size is equals to 2 times k, just make it null. Now it means we have more than one value of 2 times k, whatever the value is mentioned. So now you have to go through your list and check and remove. So now let's remove from the front. So how to remove from the front? When you are removing from the front, I think I mentioned in one of my questions in like previous videos, you can watch the previous recorded videos where I think I have mentioned, when you are removing from the front, you don't need current. Okay, so let's remove it from the front. So now that was else if one of the case, curly braces closed. Now else if another case. Now else if k is, you are at this else if, it means your size is greater than 2 times k. So now we have to check if your k is a valid number, k is greater than 0. And if your k is greater than 0, starting curly braces, ending curly braces, it means we have to remove the k elements, removing the k elements from the front. So how to remove the k elements, starting curly braces, let me do a little indent so you know. Int count equals to 0. We will do a count for our later end part. Int count 0, and now let me just indent a little bit more. Front equals to while loop, your count is less than k, right? And inside, how to remove the front values, front you are equals to front dot next. Simple to remove from front, and you will do count plus plus, so that remove close your while loop. And after this while loop, your front values will be the front k elements will be removed from your list, right? So when your front elements are removed, your size is updated, right? Your size is reduced, your list size. So at this point, you have removed the first three elements from your list. Now you have to remove the k elements, sorry, the k elements. I'm just assuming the k has a value of 3. Now we have to remove k elements from the last. So how to remove it? First of all, you need to pass the current values. You have to reach that point that where the last 3 values or the last k values start. So let's write for that we need current, right? So have we declared current somewhere? Current is outside. Yes, we have declared current somewhere. It's outside. So current you are equals to front again, because your front is changed after removing the front 3 elements or 4 elements or 5 depending on the k. Your front is changed, so you have to reassign a front to your current. Your current is pointing at the same, your front is pointing at the same. Now you have to run your while loop and you have to go through the number of lists. Now how to go through? Again, your count is holding a value. You have removed 3 elements. As long your count is less than, what was the total size? Minus k, because we have removed the k elements, and minus 1. Let's see how, and inside simple, you just have to remove. How to remove? You will say, I don't know why this is not moving somewhere else. The copy and paste bar is in front. I'm not able to see. Starting curly braces, ending curly braces. To remove, simple, you will say current equals to current dot next. You're just moving on to the next node, passing through the current values and doing a count plus plus. We will do a dry run so that you can see. Let's pick something else so that, because there was a bar in front of me, I'm not able to see the code. Okay, count plus plus, closing curly braces. Now we will remove the last elements. And how to remove the last elements? You will say current dot next equals to, now simple. Just make, and we don't want whatever the last element is over there. So let's draw with this. Let's draw some list. The values doesn't matter in your list. The only thing is we are removing the first 3 elements and the last. So let's stick to the same 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So what do you think? Which k value should I give? That many elements will be removed from your list. What will be the k value you want to test? Okay, just putting random values because value doesn't matter. 5, 2, 1, 6, 7, 9, 11, 12, and all are connected. Okay, now let's see. This is your list. This is your front. I'm just making a small f. Front is pointing at this one. You have public void trim ends int k, size equals to 0. You're finding the size. List node current equals to front. So your current is equals to front. This is your current. You're saying while current is not null, current equals to current dot next is just going, current will go all the way at the end. And you're saying current dot next is not equals to dot next, and you're doing size plus plus. So size plus plus, size 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Your size will be equals to 8 at the end of that loop, and your current will be at this point. So your current is basically gone. Oops. Oops. Okay. Current is basically gone. Let me use the text box. Okay. Current is basically gone after this first while loop. So just think current is not there. And what we have, draw, let's change the color. So at this, we have the size. Your size is equals to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Size is 8. What do you think the value of k we should use? 3. Let's take k is equals to 3, which is passed by user. K can be anything, but we are assuming k is 3. We have find the size of our list. This is our list. At this, now we are checking if size is less than, which is 8, is less than k times 2. K, 3 times 2. What is 3 times 2? It's 6. Is this condition true? Is size is 8 is less than 6? No, this condition is not true. So we will not throw any illegal argument exception. Else if size equals to 2 times k, is it size, which is 8, equals to 3 times 2, which is 6? Is this true? No, this is also not true. So it means we will go in our else if third scenario, and we will check if k is greater than 0. Is k greater than 0? Yes, 3 is greater than 0. We will go inside. You have a count variable. So what count is doing, unt count is equals to 0. And what you are doing is front equals to front dot next, and you are doing your while count is less than, which is 0, is less than k, which is 3. So if 0 is less than 3, true, you go inside and you set front equals to front dot next. You are modifying your front. Front equals to front dot next. Your front is now pointing at 2. And you said count plus plus, count is now 1. Then again, while loop, your while loop, this is the while loop we are testing. While count is less than k, your count is 1. Is 1 is less than 3? Yes, 1 is less than 3. Then you set front equals to front dot next. Front is 2, front dot next. So your front is now pointing at 1. So front is, this one is gone. So your front is pointing at 1. Count plus plus, count is now 2. You check the while loop condition again. In count is less than k. Is your 2 is less than 3? Yes, 2 is less than 3. Front equals to front dot next. So your front dot next will be, your front is now pointing at, this is your new front, is pointing at 6. Count plus plus, count is now 3. Is 3 is less than 3? No, 3 is not less than 3. So this loop will stop and you will go outside where you have current equals to front. So at this point, these first 3 values are removed. And according to the k, 3 first values must be removed. We have removed the first 3 values. Your new front is 6. So current equals to front. Now you have your current equals to front. So your current is also pointing at 6 and your front is also pointing at 6. Now while your count is less than, what is your count? Your count is 3. Your count is 3. Is 3 less than size minus k? What is size? Size is 8. 8 minus k is 8 minus 3 is, what is 8 minus 3? 5. 5 minus 1, 4. So this is the formula. 3 is less than 4. Yes, you go inside, you say current equals to current dot next. Your current is current dot next, which is now your current is pointing at 7. Current dot next, your current is pointing at 7. And count plus plus, count is now 4. So you check the while loop, this while loop condition again. While 4 is less than 4? No, 4 is not less than 4. So this loop will exit and then you remove the last element. Current dot next is null, so you will make this current dot next is null. So you have, when you make this null, the last three elements are automatically removed. So we have removed the first three elements, we have removed the last three elements. Your final list is holding 6 and 7. That's your final code, final solution. Any questions so far?